we're going to share our top 7 bodyweight adductor strength exercises. The adductors are a group of muscles that live on the inner thigh. And in a typical yoga practice, we tend to stretch the adductors quite a bit. We tend to lengthen this muscle group, but we don't tend to do very much really effective strengthening of the adductors. So a little focus on targeted strength for this muscle group can be a really nice way to complement, especially really for everybody, but especially for yoga practitioners. I am Jenny, and this is Travis, and we are the co-founders of Strength for Yoga, where we teach yogis how to build yoga-specific strength. So Travis, what's our first bodyweight adductor exercise?
Our first bodyweight adductor exercise is the hovering triangle hinges. So we know triangle pose in yoga. It's a pretty wide stance, and we tend to go down and hold this pose. And so, again, it's another good adductor stretch. But if we practice this a slightly different way, we can bring a little bit more strengthening into the position. So one thing that we will say is for these hinges, it might help to bring the feet a little bit closer together. And so the difference now for the hinge is that Jenny is going to dynamically go in and out of her triangle pose. And she has placed her hands behind her head to raise her center of gravity a little bit, which will add a little bit more load to the adductor muscles. And in particular, it's the adductors on her front thigh, or the back of her front thigh here, or the inside / back of her front thigh. And so she can go in and out. She can pause for a second in the bottom where the load is the greatest. If she wanted to increase the load even further, she could take her hands overhead instead of behind. And that's going to be really spicy.
This lengthens the lever and adds more load as a lower, and it's really good stuff.
Cool.
So it's a nice way to turn a traditional yoga pose into put a little strength spin on it. And we have another one, right? Our second exercise?
Our second exercise is not radically different, but we perform it in a straddle position, or known in yoga as that. And so Straddle-Seat is a wide-legged seat. And Jenny will also perform side bends in this shape. So if this position at a baseline were a little bit uncomfortable for you, you could raise your seat up, sit on a bolster, or sit on your yoga blanket. And so she goes from one side to the other. As she goes to the one side, she's stretching and strengthening the adductors on the thigh that she is leaning towards. And so again, she has her hands behind her head. And if she wanted to add more load, lengthen the lever, she could do this in a straight arm position.
Yes, and I definitely feel this one. And it's so good for that combination of mobility and strength. And again, a cool spin on a classic yoga pose.
Yeah. And in both of those first two, you might also, or you will likely also notice your obliques working on the top side of the
So if I go this way, it's
side
like
that you
here.
bend to. So that may not come as a surprise to you. These are all frontal plane movements for the adductors. And so oftentimes we work our obliques at the same time as our adductors. But you get a little extra benefit for the core.
Yes.
And that'll be also true on our next exercise.
That's right.
Which is our top leg side plank. So we know traditional side plank where we have either our feet stacked or our feet staggered and we're on our hand here.
And this is, as far as like the hips go, this is kind of targeting the outer, the opposite, right, of the adductors in a traditional side plank.
The thing that's working the most is the bottom hip abductor or outer thigh muscle. But if we take that out of the equation and we bring that knee either up towards the chest, or we could straighten that leg if we so chose. That's a little bit more of a mobility demand. But now we only have the top leg working. So yes, our obliques on the bottom side are working, but now our adductors on the bottom leg are working really hard to maintain that side plank.
And these adductors also work.
That too, yes. So that's a little hidden benefit. So just by raising that bottom leg up and holding it up against gravity, we're getting that inner thigh muscle as well on the bottom leg, not just the top.
That's right.
Good point.
Now we have a fourth of 7.
Our fourth exercise is the lateral kneeling adductor slide. So for this exercise, Jenny will have a yoga blanket or anything that slides. So if you were on carpet, you could use furniture sliders or a paper plate, or if you just had socks on hardwood, that would slide too.
Yeah.
And so lateral kneeling is a position where you're kneeling on one leg and then you have the opposite leg outstretched. So you can see she's going into like a straddle split. Is that what you would call it on one side?
Yeah.
And she's sliding slowly out and sliding back in. So her adductors are controlling the slide out on both sides. But particularly, which side do you feel it more working?
I was just thinking about that as
Yeah.
I mean, I really feel it in
Yeah,
both.
I didn't know the answer
really
to that.
both.
It's both.
But maybe I
But
feel
it's different from
a
one
little
side to the
more
other.
because it's a little more lengthened
Yeah.
over here. Yeah.
So the what she wants to make sure is that she slides slowly in each direction, so that she's not using momentum to bring herself in either direction. And the farther out she slides, of course, the more difficult it's going to be, because it's putting a greater stretch on those adductors. And the farther out you go, the harder it is to produce force in that muscle. And so you can work towards a greater, deeper range of motion as you go.
So what is our next exercise?
Our next exercise is another adductor slide. So we call this one the frog adductor slide because of frog
pose. Which is like
yeah.
this.
So, and you actually could perform
Yeah, you
the
could.
exercise like that with the hands down. Maybe not the elbows, but having the hands down would offload a little bit from the legs. But if you wanted to bring more strength into it, take the hands off. And then you perform the same or a similar slide out and back in, slow in both directions till you feel a good stretch. And then the legs hug in and the adductors are doing the slow controlled out and then the squeeze back in.
Super potent, I feel, for this region of the body.
So you could see that one in the frog slide, both legs are doing the same thing at the same time. In the lateral kneeling adductor slide, the legs are in different positions. So one leg is doing something a little different from the other.
Yeah, right. We're right.
Our next exercise is a simple adductor squeeze, which we'll perform in a hook lying position, which is just on your back with your feet flat on the floor. So for this one, Jenny places a yoga block in between her knees, and then she squeezes that block together, trying to break the block. So in yoga, you might do this, but you wouldn't traditionally do it for like a specific number of repetitions or a specific hold time. So like in a strength context, I might say, do this exercise for 3 mini sets of 10-second holds. And so I might say, try to squeeze it at like 70% of your maximum squeeze, or maybe it's 100% all out squeeze. And so like you might not be able to see that Jenny's doing anything here, but she's really trying to hug her knees together, and that's going to activate the inner thighs muscles.
All of this works. Yeah. And here it's not a lengthened position for the adductors.
No, it's a shortened or a shorter position.
Right. And that's
maybe probably a neutral.
Hip. But it's good to strengthen it all.
That's right. Yeah. So if those
positions.
other exercise variations mostly targeted us in the lengthened position, we also want to be strong in the shortened position too. So this is a nice opportunity for that.
Yes.
And if you wanted to up the ante a little bit, then you could maintain that block squeeze as you perform glute bridges.
And this is technically our 7th exercise now, right?
This
is our last one.
This is our last exercise. So this is a glute bridge with an adductor squeeze. So Jenny hugs that block in the whole time. She maintains that, let's say, 70% contraction as she raises her hips up and lowers. You could just hold the whole thing as a static pose,
that's
but
true.
we like
stay up.
We like to move up and down.
Yeah, in yoga we tend to often lift in a bridge and a hold, but we could go up and down. And Travis, isn't there one of our we have 5 adductors on each side, but isn't one of them extra targeted in this?
It's true. So one of our adductors, our adductor magnus, is also a hip extensor.
Yes.
So that means that for the adductor magnus, not only is it getting the work into adduction or hugging the block together, but it's also getting the extra work in hip extension. So it's working both of its joint actions at the same time, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely, especially from a anatomy geek perspective.
That's right.
How
do your adductors feel?
They feel terrific. I targeted them in so many different ways and at different lengths and in many like super yoga relevant and yoga specific ways.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting, right? You mentioned that we don't target the adductors in a strengthening way often in a yoga context, yet we have all these shapes that strengthen them, but
That stretch them.
that stretch them. And here are ways that we can just make some subtle changes using just our body weight and
Yeah.
common yoga props, which we can get some strength in a familiar way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it for that. So thanks so much. And we hope that you enjoy bringing this information into your yoga and movement practice. And if you appreciated this content, subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date on all the tips that I/we share.